There are a couple of other things that I do that I find very focused and I really enjoy and I connect to. One of the things I always wanted to do when I was younger was be artistic. My mum could draw, and I like that, but I tried, and it's one of those things that I just don't have the talent for. So I kind of forgot about it and let it go. And a few years ago, just a few years ago, I learned about Zentangle art. It was I was on a craft forum and somebody showed this they were doing, and I looked into it and it was really interesting. It was a form of focused tangle doodle art, and I got a book from the works, and somebody else got me a book as a gift, and I learned some patterns, and I realised. The drawing and the focus required to do it was very beneficial for anxiety. It really reduced my anxiety. I introduced it to the group as well, and I noticed the same for them. And so I kind of took this on. I got immersed in this a little bit. But one of the things that I also found was I found an artist, a male artist, and he used the patterns in a almost structured way, as he incorporated it in other shapes. And his artwork is included in books and tattoos and albums on covers. And people do murals of these things in their homes. And it looked amazing, and I really liked it, and I fancied the challenge. So some places offered free templates that you can use Zentangle art with. And those templates look like this. It's a blank template, an outline of an image. And I like animals, so one of the reasons I go for that. And you use you pick what art you want, what patterns you want, and I've practiced quite a few patterns. And then you fill that space with pattern. And to bring that a wee bit closer, and it's very enjoyable, but it's also very focused work, and it doesn't cost too much money. You need paper, you need fine liners. I get mine from Wilco's; it only costs £1, and pencil. And the patterns I found, if you again the internet, there's a couple of sites I found that offer free patterns. You can print them and practice them in your own space, and that's what I do. I have a little collection of patterns. I think I have about over 100, and I've practiced those and incorporate them in my art. And I don't just do animals. I do a lot of animals, but not just those. Another one is I do other things, and this is a lighthouse, and I decorated that the same way with a different pattern. One of the things I did after that was I took print those off for people in the charity to colour in if they wanted to, because you see a lot of that in adult colouring books. And when I did that, I realised that actually I kind of like the idea of colouring my own and changing those. And I'll show you a little bit of what I've done with my own artwork. This is a small selection of my own art which I coloured in. I did see other Zentangle artists using graphite to do their artwork, and it looked quite interesting, and I did try it. I found it quite, I liked the effect of that. It changed the artwork, it changed how it looked. However, I like colour. I'm a very visual person and I like colour, so I decided to go for colour using colour pencils, and I learned some, you know, tips and tricks to change the artwork to look more 3D, and I really like that. I really like the effect of that. When I started colouring in my own art, I started to see how we can change that art and change the look of it. and I really enjoyed working with pencils because it enabled me to do layering, and that was important when you wanted to add depth to things. And this opened something else up for me. It brought something else, another interest into my activities. And that interest, and I'm sure people have heard about that, is adult colouring books. And the difference for adult colouring books is the detail involved. And again, that really appealed to me, appealed to my the challenge I like. But before I touch on that a wee bit, I wanted to talk about cost. Now, with everything there is cost, and I'm a person that needs to work on a budget. Do my own art was cheaper, but I wanted to try the adult colouring. So there's a shop called The Works where I live, and then they have stores all over the country, and they offer colouring books sometimes at half the price that you would pay elsewhere. And I've got a few from there. And also materials, and I use pencils, and this is a case that I keep my pencils in. There's a reason for that. Pencils can be fragile, and if you drop them they shatter, and that's the problem. So I want to, if I'm going to pay for pencils, and I use student grade mostly because it's cheaper, I don't want them to shatter. I want to get as much use out of them as I can. So that's why I use a case. And I got student grade pencils, and they enabled me to learn some skills about adding depth and colouring. And I looked at artwork, and I wanted a challenge, and I wanted something that was going to improve my abilities, because that appealed to me. I could be artistic in a slightly different way, and I really admire people's art, and to be able to colour in lovely artwork is a pleasure for me. Lovely artwork like such as this. Now some people would look at that and go, oh right, okay, loads of stuff there, I could even think about doing something like that. However, for me, I like the challenge. It's and I introduced that kind of artwork again into the charity. And one of the things I noticed, and I noticed it in myself, and I noticed it in them, is how they did that colouring. Now, this is just personal experience, how they connected to that colouring. And one of the things that they how they connected to it was in an anxious way. And I started to reflect on how I did my projects, how I approached them, and now they were approaching them, and I started talking about that with them. And one of the things that they were doing was they loved the artwork, but they didn't really connect to the elements in the artwork, and they just wanted to colour it. They weren't thinking about colour. They weren't thinking about how they were colouring it. They just they wanted it finished so then go to the next one. Well, that's colouring in an anxious state. So you take your anxiety, you take it to your activity, and in colouring, it's really obvious. It's not the journey they were enjoying. It was just you had to get it done and get it finished as quickly as possible. So that was one thing that I reflected on, and I've discussed with the people in the charity about how they connect to their colouring and the art they're working with. I'll show you a little bit of some of the things I have done myself, just a small selection of my art. This is a small selection of coloured art that I purchased and coloured in with my pencils. I've enjoyed learning techniques to enable me to change a flat image to give it depth. And it takes time, practice. But I enjoy that. I like the challenge it brings. I found some YouTube tutorials on the internet, and they have been really helpful. This fox, for instance, is an example of tangled art being included in other artwork. Uh, I tend to colour that in slightly differently, and it's quite a relaxing process. The other kind of art is me trying to add a bit of realism to it and a bit of depth. And some of the artwork I've got from books, I think is stunning. I really enjoy working with these really talented pieces of artwork. When it came to think about the colour, and as I mentioned before, there was the how you did that, and in my experience, you can take anxiety into that activity, and you'll be rushing, not really connecting to what you're doing. With colouring, especially when you work with pencils and detailed art, it's kind of important um, to focus and have that focus and to immerse yourself and connect to what you're doing. That would be a bit of advice I would like to pass on. I've now covered quite a few things. I'll do hope this gives you ideas. Anybody's watching this who's suffering from anxiety, depression, and the effects of trauma or any mental health condition. I've introduced some of the things I've done to people who have complex needs, including autism and schizophrenia, and it's been quite beneficial for them as well. I've seen how it helped them, especially when they connect to the activities. It's not gender specific. I've used patterns for knitting, for instance, that were designed by men. There's male artists, there's male colorists, there's of course exercise, and men and women can do that. So don't be restricted by, oh, I'm a woman, I shouldn't be doing that, or I'm a man, I shouldn't be doing that. Just find things that appeal to you and see if you connect to them and get into that focus activity and enjoy it. I hope people will comment on the videos we put up on the SS2 blog and Facebook page. I'll put a link in the Facebook page. Come and chat with us, come and add your comments. If it's useful, if it's enabled you to either do something I do or you found something else and now you've achieved that and gone about that. It'd be really interesting to read about that. So thank you for listening and watching, and enjoy your activities.